Welcome back to our class. Today, we are going to be looking at population ecology. Many students have been asking for more classes on grade 11. So recently, we did a class on excretion. So if you have not got it yet, please check the description below. I've put the link for excretion. So today we are going to be looking at what we call population ecology. What is involved in population ecology? Basically, when you talk about a population, you're talking about a group of organisms. These organisms must be of the same species. So this population, it must be of the same species and must be able to interact with each other so that they can interbreed to produce a fertile offspring. There is a difference between viable and fertile. So we accept more of fertile offspring. So basically, that's what is called a population. But because this population is supposed to be regulated in ecology, that's why we call it population ecology. So population ecology is the study of populations. You're talking about different populations, meaning that different species involved in the ecology to bring about the populations and how these populations interact to the environment and the social interaction amongst them. Between a population and another population, and then a population with environment. So it means that the interaction should be between these different populations, but does not stop there, plus its environment. Hence, you come up with the population ecology. So, population size is going to be determined by the individuals. Let me just clean up here. Yeah. So the total number of individuals in a population is what we call population size. And then the population density here is density, meaning that how many are there in a specific unit of an area. So the number of individuals of population per unit area. How many individuals are in your area? That area only, that specific area. That's why we are saying that per unit area, meaning that, for example, 10 cows per hectare. Meaning that each 10 cows per 100 meters times another 100 meters. That is 100 meters squared. That's the meaning. Yeah. So how many individuals of that population are found in that specific area? This is what we call population density. So the population size, yes, population size is influenced by both biotic and biotic factors. When you talk about biotic factors, we are talking about the non-living, the non-living component. For example, here you can talk about air, you can talk about soil, you can talk about any component adaptive factors or soil factors. You can talk about temperature, you can talk about humidity, all these factors which are non-living, we call them abiotic factors. These factors, they determine the number of individuals an area is supposed to have. And then biotic factors, these are factors which is connected to life. So when you talk about maybe the predations, maybe the competitions, basically factors which are involved with the organisms which have what? Which have life. So we call them biotic factors. So population size will be determined by that. How much meat do you eat every week will determine how many cows will you need to slaughter. And then that will definitely be linked to the number of cows which are present in that area. Then when you talk about natality, natality is, you are talking about number of individuals which are given birth to, and then mortality, number of individuals which are dying. These are some of the biotic factors. Migration include the immigration and the emigration. This is coming in, coming in, and then this is going out. So we call it immigration and emigration. Yes. Then if you look at this, this helps us to know the population size. Basically, the immigration factor will increase the population size, and the natality, the number of individuals which are being given birth to, will give will increase the population size. While the immigration, moving out of an area, will decrease the what? Will decrease the population, and also mortality, the number of people who are dying. Death will bring about decrease in the size of population. Yes. So we are saying that positive growth rate means that the population is increasing. The negative growth means that the population is what? Decreasing. Basically, when you talk about positive growth, population is increasing, it means that these factors are lower than these factors. Did I say that? No. When the population is increasing, it means that yes, these factors are lower than this. If the population growth is 10% and the population death is 5%, so the difference in the population size will be 5%, 5% and increase, because if you subtract 10, 5, you'll get 5%. That's the change, and the change is coming from an increase. Therefore, the population size will what? Will increase. So grade 11, you need to understand these concepts. The population size will increase, or the population will increase because of, number one, birth rate within the population is higher, maybe was increased more than the death rate. Then you have the immigration specifically. This is introduction of new members in the population. This means that where these organisms came from, their population is decreasing, while where the organisms is going to, the population is increasing. So basically, migration leads to increase and decrease of population, but it depends on where the increase and where the decrease. Where immigration occurs, then it's going to be decrease. Where immigration occurs, it's going to be increase. So these members could have entered the population temporarily for breeding seasons. Maybe they have just come there to carry out the breeding, and after that they will go back. Or they have come permanently. This is species dependent, meaning that it will depend on the species, which kind of species. Not all species will do the same. Some will just come in and then they go. Others will come and then they will stay there permanently. This one is also being experienced in different countries. You see that the country's population is increasing because of the number of immigrants which are coming to that country. Some immigrants, they come and they ask for permanent residence, and others, they just come and just for a visit and they go back. So that's the meaning here, that some individuals, they come and they stay there temporarily, others, they come and stay there permanently. So it depends on which organism has come and what is it for. That's why you are saying that it depends on the species. So it is this species dependent. What about population decrease? What happens with it? What causes it? And what does it result in? Okay, mortality, this is the death, the number of individuals, the death rate within the population. If it is too much, yes, it means that the population size is going to decrease. Why? Because the number of individuals who are dying are more than the number of people who are given birth to. Emigration, remember I told you that migration will bring about increase in the population and also decrease in the population. So it depends on which kind of migration has taken place. If it is emigration, then automatically where the organism has exit, yes, it means that their population in that area will decrease, and where the organism has entered to, the population is going to be increased. So individuals leaving a population because of the migrations at the end of the season, or original population split into subpopulation across a large geographical barrier. You'll study this when you go to grade 12. We call it geographical isolation, or what you call speciation, when you're talking about speciation, but specifically what you call the allopatric speciation, separating the formation of new species due to the geographical barrier, separating the original population into two, subpopulation into two or three, depending on basically what is it being what formed at the end, because you can have two or three species being formed. So it means that one population will split into different subpopulations. So basically, this is also species dependent. It depends on the type of species which is being subjected to immigration. And then the population will either decrease if immigration occurs, and it will increase if immigration occurs. But since we are looking at some of the things which cause the population decrease, then automatically we're going to talk about immigration. So mortality, death rate, and the rate at which these organisms are being they're exiting that area, then it will determine how many individuals are in that area. Change in the number of individuals in the population can be determined by using the following equations. How do we know the number of individuals? Population size in the area. What do we use to determine the population size in an area? This will depend on whether the organism is big enough to be viewed and counted directly, or small that you cannot count them directly. Therefore, if they are too small or too overcrowded and then you cannot count them individually, then automatically you have to employ another method which can be used to determine the population size. So population change is equal to the number of birth plus number of immigration minus the number of death plus the number of immigration. As I say that if the number of individual who are being given birth to and the number of individual which are coming to an area, then it is greater. For example, 10 is greater than the number of people who are dying and number of people who are living, or individual who are coming and living, will determine the population change. For example, if it is 10 and it's 5, then automatically I'm going to say 10 minus 5, and the change is going to be 5%, meaning that there is an increase by 5%. What about if this is 4 and then this is 6? Then automatically I'm going to say the same thing, 4 minus 6, I'm going to have negative 2%, meaning that the decrease is there by negative 2%. Therefore, we can say that when the balance is positive, the population size is increased, or there is an increase. And when the negative and when the balance is negative, that's what I'm talking about here. It means that the population size is decreasing. So if you get a positive like 5%, it is positive. So the population is increasing by 5%. And then if you get a negative value, then it means that the population size is decreasing. What are some of the causes of fluctuation in the natural population? What causes some of the fluctuation, the changes in the natural population? So natural population, those fluctuations can occur, or those changes can occur. Yes, number one, as the density, number one, depending on the density, dependent or independent factors. So these two will bring about the fluctuation of the number of individuals in an area. So if you're saying that this is density dependent, meaning that it depends on how many individuals are there in that area. And then density independent, it doesn't matter how many individuals, even if it's one, it is going to act the same way when there is 100 individuals there. So we call them density independent factors. So we're going to look at them in more detail, clearly, so that we can understand those factors better. So types of environmental resistance. What are some of the types of environmental resistance? Number one, environmental resistance include carrying capacity, meaning that these are the factors which influence the fluctuation, which influence the increase in the number of individuals in an area. Yes. So the carrying capacity, the maximum number of individuals an area can accommodate sufficiently, yes, within a specific period of time. Yes, it must be number of individuals in that area, and it can accommodate those individuals, meaning that it can sustain them without any stress subjected to the environment. And this must be within a specific period of what? Period of time. So we call it carrying capacity. Which carrying capacity do you have? So density dependent, these are factors which depend on the number of individuals in a population. An example is food. If you look at food availability will depend on how many individuals are there in the population. But if you look at sunlight, it doesn't matter how many individuals are there. It doesn't matter whether when you're still sleeping, you are out or you're not out. It doesn't matter, the sun will come out. So those factors which do not depend on how many individuals are there, we call them density independent. They don't depend on the density. And then those individuals which depend on how many individuals are there, we call them density dependent variables or factors. Carrying capacity refers to the number of individuals an environment can support in a specific season. Specific season means time. Yes, it can support within a specific period of what time? When you talk about support here, it means that you support without having stress. You're stressing the environment. The environment must not be stressed. The moment the environment starts to be stressed, then it's going to become, it has exceeded the carrying capacity. Yes. Then we are saying that if a population exceeds its environmental carrying capacity, what happens? There will not be enough, you see, enough resources to sustain the population. And so the population size will fall because of the increased environmental resistance. Meaning that if the population was increasing at a rapid state, and then now the carrying capacity has been reached, yes, the moment you exceed the carrying capacity, it means that it will be constant and then start dropping because now the stress is making these individuals not to grow faster in terms of the number of individuals. And then those which cannot sustain, they will die. And then the population size will start to decrease. And the number of individuals will start to be stopped from being reproducing. Let me just give you an example. In South Africa here, you'll find out that they don't care how many individuals you give birth to. Actually, based on my understanding, I think the country advises you to have at least 4 kids. Now I am saying that. Yeah, because that's the number of individuals it can support if you don't have support. For example, if you are under SASA, 4 individuals will be supported. If you have the 5th one, you will support that individual. Meaning that its carrying capacity as a government is 4 kids. Go to China. How many individuals? Only 1. Don't forget that that 1 child is being reproduced by 2 individuals, meaning that the population is decreasing. I heard that if you have another individual, then you pay taxi for the 2nd one and the 3rd one and the 4th one. So for people to prevent that, they just have to get 1 child. So its carrying capacity, in other words, its carrying capacity reached. So the moment the carrying capacity is reached, then automatically it means that the individuals will not be able to produce as the way they were supposed to produce before. Like the same way how here in Mozambique, the individuals, you have 10 kids, 100 kids, who cares? No one cares about it. Yes. So, but other countries where the carrying capacity has reached, definitely you have to be with some implications. So carrying capacity is the maximum number of individuals an area can support without stress within a specific period of time. So if carrying capacity is exceeded, automatically these resources will start to be short. And then if they become short, it means that the population size will fall. You see, it will decrease because of the increased environmental resistance. These are the environmental resistance. Maybe you don't have space for houses. Maybe you don't have enough food. Maybe so environmental factors will come in. I heard that in China. I'm just talking about what I heard about, that they sell space. If you want to build, you get land and then you start building. There in China, you have to look for someone who has already built, and then that person will sell space on the top of So that, why? Because the resources are not enough for the population which is there. Hence, they have exceeded their carrying capacity. This does not only occur in individuals only, like people, but also even other species. Population size may fluctuate in the natural populations around the carrying capacity. This is known as stable population size. So when you talk about that, the population size, which may fluctuate in the natural populations around the carrying capacity, then we call it a stable population. Why? Do you understand what I'm saying here? If with this statement I wrote here. By the way, guys, if you don't have this book, you can download it from the description below, the distinction material book for grade 12. Sorry, for grade 10, grade 11. We call it Excel in Life Science Distinction Material. Excel in Life Science Distinction Material. All right, look at this. So if the population goes, if this is the carrying capacity, then you exceed the carrying capacity, automatically when you exceed the carrying capacity, it's going to go down again. When it goes down, then the resources become available again. Then you exceed, you go down again, like this. So the population keeps on going like that. Because if I draw a line passing through, the center is a straight line, it means that this thing is stable. So that's why they're saying that population size may fluctuate in the natural populations around the carrying capacity. The carrying capacity, this is known as a stable population size, meaning that this population size is the population can't be maybe 100 people all the time. No, be 110, 101, 99, 95, 100, 110. Like, so it means that it has a minimum, maybe 95, and the maximum is 110. So it keeps on fluctuating there. So because that fluctuation doesn't go beyond that and doesn't go above that, therefore we say that that population is stable, hence stable population size. Stable population size fluctuating around the carrying capacity. This is what I was trying to say. At the beginning, you'll experience an increase if the land is still virgin, meaning that there is no too much pressure on that land, you have not reached the carrying capacity. Definitely individuals will be reproducing maximum number of individuals, whatever number they want. But once it reaches the carrying capacity, now the pressures will start to come in and then it will start to fluctuate. Hence, when I draw a line, it is a straight line crossing this wave, and then we shall say that this is a stable population. Let's look at the density-dependent and density-independent factors. Density-dependent factors, we are saying that the factors that have the direct correlation, meaning that increase the number of those factors, or if there is that factor, it will affect the population directly without any, let me say, middleman. We don't call it middleman because this is not economics, but we are talking about it will affect directly. You understand? So the relationship, this kind of direct relationship or direct correlation to the size of the population in an area. Yes. Less food, less people. More food, more people. That's it. No medicine, less people. More medicine, more people. Simple. You understand? Yes. Better education, more people. Less education, less people. Simple. So they have direct influence or correlation with the population. So these factors, they exert a great influence when the population is large. So examples of these density dependent factors is number one is territorial behavior, then predation and competition. This, when we say territorial behavior, it means that the behavior some organisms do You understand? The behavior, some to protect that specific area. It could be mates which are, sorry, yes, the number of females or number of males. By the way, why should I go there? Look at Zimbabwe. Look at South Africa. Look at Swaziland. Look at whatever. That behavior, it will determine the kind of, there is that territory. You understand? Yes, there is that territory. So the number of individual here, imagine they say that, which country can I use? I know that you like this. USA. The border is now open. There's no territory limitations. So anyone who wants to go to USA, go. How many people will flood USA? A lot. You understand? Maybe, let me just say, how many people? They say that, okay, now guys, South Africa is open. Anyone who wants to go there, go. You'll see how many people are going there. They will just say any country. Yes. You'll see people will be flooding into that country. That's why they put these limitation, the visa what, you have to apply, they reject it, you apply again, you appeal, whatever, so that they prolong the process and they minimize the number of people who are entering. So this, they have a direct impact on the size of the population. Predation, organisms which feed on another organisms or which kill other organisms for food. Competition, all these factors, they have a direct influence on the number of individual in an area. Then we have the accumulation of wastes. The moment wastes start to accumulate, the number of individuals will die, will decrease. Why? Because these wastes, they bring about a negative impact or influence on the population, and then the population size will start to decrease. Then you have food and space, food and space, food, space, and shelter. Imagine you're sleeping outside. Do you think you'd have been with the number of, oh, do you think your daddy would have given birth to you, your daddy and your mom? No, I don't think so. But because there is shelter, there is where you can be protected from, there is space, there is food. Yeah. Then the population size will increase. So these, they influence. Imagine you have 10 kids and you don't have enough food every day. Do you think this person will, or the lady or the man will allow to add another kid? No. So the population, what if all these things are very rich and there is food? Definitely, if they want to have another one, they'll say, even they say, maybe, why don't we have twins? And then you shift from 10 to 12. So basically, the population size can also be determined by these factors. Parasitism is one organism is feeding on another, but the one which is feeding is benefiting, and the one which is being fed upon is being harmed. So diseases, they have direct impact. All these are, all these ones, this and this, they are biotic factors. They depend, the population depend on them. Yes. So if the population is too much, then automatically you have much parasitism, much diseases. So they determine how many individuals are there in that area. Cholera comes and you are staying in one area, overcrowded. What next? It means that it's going to wipe a number of individuals in that area. So let's look at the density independent factors. What are some of the factors which does not depend on the density? They will just come in, whatever case it is, either population small or big, they don't care. So the factors that will exert an influence on the population regardless of its size. We call them the density independent factors. So are abnormal event in nature and occurs randomly. These are just events which occur randomly. Imagine a big tornado coming. What next? A lot of individuals will die. So examples include natural disasters. Any disaster which is natural. Yes. Tsunami, landslides, volcanic eruptions, uh, wildfires, floods. All these are population independent factors. Doesn't matter how many individuals are there in an area for tsunami to occur. Doesn't matter. Welcome back to our class. Today, we are going to be looking at population ecology. Many students have been asking for more classes on grade 11. So recently we did a class on excretion. So if you have not got it yet, please check the description below. I've put the link for excretion. So today we are going to be looking at what we call population ecology. What is involved in population ecology? Basically, when you talk about a population, you're talking about a group of organisms. These organisms must be of the same species. So this population, it must. So examples, we say that some of the examples for density produce a fertile offspring. There is a difference between viable and fertile. So we accept more of fertile offspring. So basically, that's what it is called. So examples, we say that some of the examples for density depend independent factors. We say that natural disasters. So among the natural disasters, we said tsunami, we said landslides, we said volcanic eruptions, uh, wildfires, and then floods. And then here we say that this depends on the type of population and the size of determining the population size. We say that it depends on the type of population, the size of population that can be determined either directly or indirectly. And then we say that here it depends on basically whether the organism is too small to be viewed, to be counted directly, or the animal is too big so that you can count them directly, like elephants. So direct technique involves or include the total counting of all individuals, like an aerial photograph sensors, like you are flying over these big animals, and then you can what? You can count them directly, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's direct technique. Then we have some other indirect techniques whereby you don't count all the individuals once, but what you do is you count some and you leave some. And then after that, you put into an equation or expression, and so that you can calculate the estimated number of individuals. Examples include mark-recapture method or mark-recapture technique. You have the quadrat technique. We have even others, but we only talk about the mark-recapture method and then the quadrat method. So we're going to explain this. When you talk about mark-recapture, you capture the animals or the individuals, you mark them, you release them, you capture them again, and then you count which one were captured and recaptured and which one were captured, meaning that which is the first capture and the one which has been recaptured, that's the second capture. And then you put it in the expression. So the formula used to determine the estimated population, the population is equal to the number of individuals in the first capture, the number of individuals in the second capture. For example, you are capturing flies. You have 100 flies in the first capture. Then in the second capture, you have 95 flies in the second capture. But when you capture these ones, you mark them. But after that, you release them to go back into the environment. You make sure that these marks you have put that do not influence the reproduction, the isolation of these organisms. Basically, you make sure that they don't have any side effect. Then you divide it with the one which were marked, meaning that recaptured in the second capture. You understand? So if out of 95, only 10 of them were recaptured, then it means that you're going to divide by 10, meaning that out of 95, 10 were marked. Remember, you capture them, you mark them, you release them. Then the second capture, you capture again. Amongst these ones you have captured, there will be those ones which were you marked before. So we call them recaptured. Understand? That's why I call it mark recapture method or technique. And then divide by this M, which means that the number of individual which were recaptured. So F means that the number caught in the first sample, that's the first capture. S means the number of individuals that were caught in the second capture. But M means the number of marked in the second capture. For example, I've explained it here. And then here, you are able to get the total population of these individuals. What are some of the precautions you must do before you apply this recapture method? So you must take this so that you increase the reliability of the results. Okay, number one, the sample must be large enough. Don't use 10 if you can use 100. Yes, don't use 3 if you can use 10. Yes, so enough truly represent the population. Yes. Markings used must remain for the entire period of the procedure, meaning that when you put a mark, that mark must be able to be recognized in the next capture so that you know exactly how many were recaptured. Then you have the mark. The markings must be suitable for the type of organisms that you are trying to capture, meaning that you don't put a big mark on a small animal, and it must not harm, they must not have any effect, a negative effect. They must not interfere with its movement and the behavior, meaning that if it is a reproduction, the reproduction must take place properly without any stress. So those are some of the precautions before you go for this marker capture method. And then they're saying that the marked organisms should be released into the environment close to the site of capture, meaning that put them back where you capture them from so that they can be absorbed immediately without wasting time of moving and identifying where they are supposed to be, and they end up getting lost. So try to put them back where you got them from if you can identify those places. Then be given enough time for them to mix, meaning that give these organisms enough time to mix, reproduce, and then they carry out the interactions which you are supposed to carry out before. So several secondary samples should be taken, and then the population size can be calculated, meaning that you take several second samples so that at least now you can calculate the average of the recaptured and in the second capture. So the average of each trial should be recorded to improve the reliability Yeah, why? Because you are repeating this experiment several times. Therefore, you are increasing the reliability of this experiment so that the experiment is reliable. That's the meaning. So the population growth forms. What are some of the population growth forms? Before I go to the population growth form, there is another which called the quadrat. This one is very simple. A quadrat is like maybe you are using the quadrat to count the number of plants, something like that. What you do is to hold this and then you throw it. When you throw it, it's gonna go into you throw it randomly. It's gonna have some plants it's gonna cover. Ne? So those plants you have taken, you know them, meaning that now you count those plants only in this quadrant. You get it again, you throw it again. You throw, for example, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. You keep on throwing. Yes, and then you identify the number of individuals which are there. After that, you put it in the expression and then you find how many individuals are in that area. So population growth forms. A population has a characteristic pattern of growth. The population has to grow. Yes, that is supposed to be like that. However, some of them, they decrease and others, they are on stable state. So when the population size are plotted over time, the two different growth patterns can be found in nature. They are referred to as the geometric, that is the J-shape growth curve, and then the logistic, which we call the S-shape growth curve. So basically, if you look at the two, you see that the S-shape is more reliable, is more applicable than the J-shape, because for the J-shape, you expect the population to be increasing exponentially without any stress, without any bending. But a S-shape, you'll see that, yeah, those things are happening and carrying capacity can be applied in there. So this is the geometric growth curve. The geometric growth curve is a characteristic of many microorganisms like bacteria and protists. Yeah, for them they just grow exponentially without any declines. So the three distinct phases can be seen in the geometric curve include number one, the lag phase. Number two, here the population number increase slowly because of the individuals might still be accumulating. They are trying to get used to the environment. Yes. So therefore, there is lag, there is a low growth. And then now you have, and they need time to find the mates so that they can mate and find the best reproduction moments, like so that they can increase rapidly. Yes. Most of this population is sexually immature, meaning that they are still young. They are not yet ready for them to carry out sex, to carry out this reproduction to take place. So this in the geometric phase, still, you have what you call the accelerated phase or what you call the growth phase. Individuals have accumulated here in this one, they have accelerated. Yes, many, they have get used. They have the reproductive mates. They have the mates where they're going to be reproducing from. So there is enough food, there's enough space. They have get used. All these things are available, meaning that there is nothing which is going to stop them from reproducing. So many reproducing individuals exist and in favorable conditions, and then they produce many offsprings. So the birth rate now is higher than the what? The death rate. And this is very, very, very little environmental resistance. You'll find very little environmental resistance. Therefore, it means that the population is growing without what? Without anything hindering them. So the last phase is the extinction or the death phase. Resources become limited. Food, space, diseases come in, meaning that now the land or that area cannot accommodate any other extras. And then you start to see that the population now is what? Is decreasing. So the population is no longer able to reproduce effectively. Yes, the mortality rate become greater than the natality, meaning that the death rate, don't forget that this is death rate, and then this is the birth rate, is more than the birth rate, and then automatically the population starts to decrease. So the population decreases rapidly. It keeps on decreasing rapidly. Yes. So what about the geometric growth phase? What happens in there, which you call this graph? If you look at it without words, just to explain what happens in there. You first of all, you have the what you call the lag phase, you have the exponential phase, and you have the death phase. Here is meaning that they have got extinct. Yes. So lag, no food, yes, there, but the mates are not yet get used to each other. In other words, they are still dating. I'm not saying that they go and date. I'm saying that they're still what? Dating. Yeah. So here, yes, they have got used to each other. They reproduce, meaning that here marriage has taken place. And then now death has occurred. Maybe there is a shortage of food, space. So now they are dying rapidly and they have become extinct. So this is the geometric growth curve. You understand? So what about the logistic curve? That one is much more better to describe the population size. It is very common in these big animals like humans, wildlife. Yes. So logistic growth curve. Here we experience the logistic, which we call the S shape. Growth is normally found in higher order organisms which can think more. Yes. So examples, mammals, which typically reproduce slower, and the population tend not to exceed what? The carrying capacity, meaning that they cannot exceed the carrying capacity. If the carrying capacity has reached, then there must be other factors which are going to come in, and then the population cannot grow anymore. Then the population starts to become down, and then actually it starts to become stable. If they do, they show high level of resilience to environment resistance. Yes, meaning that here you will see that they will be coping up. But if they exceed the carrying capacity, the resistance will be applied on them. And then it can't exceed a specific point. So an S-shaped graph form typically consists of 5 phases. This one has 5 phases. Among these 5 phases, you have what you call the lag phase, the same thing which happened there. The organisms have not yet get used to each other. They have not get used to the environment. They are still few, they are still young. All these things are happening in the beginning population, or the population which is just starting. As the geometric growth curve, the population number increase slowly. Yes, exponentially, or accelerating growth phase is the second phase, thereby everything is good. Yes, the population can reach higher natality level because of more sexually mature individual. Yes, when they are there, they procreating and environmental resistance being low. These individuals are being there, allowing sex to happen at a higher level so that there is maximum reproduction because everything is good. The only thing which is stopping them is the number of individuals which is having to mate so that they reproduce. So there is enough food, there is enough space, there is enough shelter, everything is good. Yes. So, however, when that happens, it reaches what you call the carrying capacity. In the carrying capacity, you experience the decelerating growth phase. The natality rate is still higher than the mortality rate, but is not as that higher as before. However, the mortality rate is now gaining momentum because of higher levels of environmental resistance and old age. This is when now organisms are starting to become old, and the more you know that old, the death is near. Doesn't mean that if you are not old, or it's only old who die. No, but the chances are higher. If someone is old and dies, there are no miracles there. But if someone dies when it is still young, so many questions will come up. Yes. So in equilibrium, stationary phase, the carrying capacity of the environment has reached. Now they have reached what called the equilibrium state, meaning that the population is stable. Yes, remember that. Stable meaning that it goes up and down, up and down. One or more limiting factors have, yes, they are exerting a toll on the population. The carrying capacity is somewhere stable and able to maintain the population at the same value. Yes, the carrying capacity is there, meaning that now the population is a little bit of being stable. Then the death and the extinction phase. In most cases, extinction may not come, but the death phase, yes. So not shown on the graph sometimes, but sometimes we show it if the extinction occurs. In most cases, this only happens if there is a catastrophe. There is there is a natural disaster which has come in and killed a number of individuals at the same time. Some of the population cannot regulate their resources, meaning that they can't regulate how much they use those resources. Or changes to abiotic factors and biotic factors in their environment and are then unable to sustain themselves. So because of that, this phase is not commonly there, but in most cases there. So you have what called the lag phase, the log phase, or what called the accelerating phase, the decelerating phase, and then the equilibrium phase, and then the death phase. You can't go to the paper without knowing this. This is the lag phase. This is the exponential phase. Everything is good. Here, the birth rate is still higher than the death rate, but the death rate is now picking the momentum. In other words, we call it increase on a decreasing state. So there is an increase, but the increase is not as that as the exponential phase. That's why you're saying that an increase, but on a decreasing what rate. So you have the equilibrium phase. So sometimes this happen and then now it drops. Once it drops like this, now this is what called a death phase. But in most cases, if it's a natural population, it goes like that. So you cannot go to the paper without knowing these phases, the lag phase, the log phase, the exponential phase. Please make sure that you know how to explain that. So you guys, I think I'm going to stop here for today, and then I'll come back for the interactions in the environment. That is predation, competition, actually symbiotic relationships. Yes. So parasitism, all these. So we're going to look at it when I come back in the next class. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for others for our daily new videos. M.Saidi, as usual, God bless you.